This video is completely centered around the Firewall sorcery, not the Fire Gauntlet, not the Pyromancer class, just how to use the Firewall the best you can. I wanted to make this video because Firewalls were something that I didn't pay much attention to. Then one day I had a friend review my gameplay and he said my Firewalls needed work. It's something I really didn't even put thought into, because it just seems so minimal at first glance. Let me show you why I think it's a great tool and potentially one of the best sorceries in the game. Let's talk about what Firewall does best, especially compared to other sorceries. Firewall is instant. It's one of the few damage sources in the game with no travel distance. In theory, you can never miss this sorcery. It's very reliable. This factor also makes it easier to hit multiple targets at once. Enemies have less time to react compared to other damage in this game. You could hard punish someone spamming Toxic Spray by instantly placing a Firewall on them. Not only is it a very reliable damage source, it provides reliable defense and utility too. It's a visual wall for you to help lose enemies, and it blocks frost shots and toxic shots. On top of all that, it ignites enemies, applying a dot. Keeping track of enemies in Spellbreak can definitely be daunting, especially when they go invisible. This dot will help you with that. And finally, the last thing that Firewall brings to the table is its zoning potential. Its sheer size and length on the battlefield is huge. If enemies want to distinguish it, they have to waste time and cooldowns. You can use this to restrict their options when you're escaping, or herd them where you want them to be. Even if it's only 12 damage, people just don't want to walk into fire, man. If you're going to use Firewall in your build, you should know how it works with your other Gauntlet. Let's go over the synergies Firewall has. Stone. Shockwaves through your Firewall combine, directly buffing the shockwave's damage and creating hazardous terrain. Lightning. While this is not a direct elemental interaction, just having two large, easy to confirm damage and zoning tools is very strong. Frost. This one's tricky because if you're playing Frostborn, a lot of your kit actually counters the Firewall. Using Firewall and Frozen Alacrity makes them both extinguish each other, leaving a water puddle on the ground. Anywhere Firewall is placed in the water will instantly be extinguished. Other than that, being able to Firewall to create a kind of wall for yourself and take ice snipes behind while peeking can be very useful in ice duels. Toxic. Yes, you can normally use your Firewall to combine with Toxic Cloud to make Dragonfire, but using your Firewall instead is faster and will make it that much easier to connect that full Dragonfire damage. You can also get really good at finding windows to DF your Firewall, turning that normal 6 tick into a shredding 20 tick of damage. This comes up more when you're actually not using a Fire Gauntlet yourself, but throwing a Toxic Cloud through a Firewall makes it land as a Dragonfire Cloud, instantly bursting your target. Wind. Tornado and Firewall do make a fire tornado, but because you aren't getting that big burst like you are from Dragonfire, I would suggest using it similar to how you would alongside with Lightning Strike. Treat Firenados like another big damaging AoE sorcery that will help you control people with Firewall. Okay, the last and I think most important thing we're going to talk about is how to aim and position your Firewall. This is a common theme with sorceries, but especially because of the Firewall size, it is fairly easy to hit enemies hiding behind structures. Enemies that think they have escaped you by getting out of your line of sight panic when they suddenly start burning. An important thing to note is that Firewall tries its best to adapt to whatever terrain you're placing it on, so on slopes or mountains it will work just fine. It will not go down flat vertical walls, similar to how stone works. You can quickly cast it on yourself if you're being rushed super hard. It's especially useful when facing toxicologists or anyone trying to get that big toxic slap on you. I hope this video helped you and maybe gave you a different perspective on how to use Firewall. That really was my goal. Let me know your thoughts on anything that you liked or that I can improve on, or even how you plan on using Firewall in the HoloLens. I'll have more videos on other sorceries and a Frostboard guide soon. Subscribe if you want to see those. Until then, stay happy.